The breaking news now is on the two fatal shootings by federal immigration officers over the past week. Both incidents involved vehicle stops, and now a source tells CNN's Priscilla Alvarez that ICE will suspend most vehicle stops until further notice. It's a pretty big reversal of their tactics. Let's get straight to Priscilla for more on her reporting. Priscilla.
Well, Dana, this is certainly a significant development in the way that ICE agents carry themselves in their immigration arrests moving forward. Again, for now. Now, according to a source who I spoke with, there was guidance that was sent out to ICE agents today. This was specific to the Enforcement and Removal Operations Branch. Those are the agents that are charged with the arrest and deportation of undocumented immigrants, essentially telling them to suspend the initiation of vehicle stops for now. Now, there is an exception for cases where they are executing a criminal warrant, but even in those cases, the guidance says that they are to coordinate with their partners. Now, again, we have been seeing an uptick in vehicle stops in recent months because the agents are under pressure to ramp up the number of immigration arrests. And so they have been frequently leaning on these vehicle stops to do so. And of course, what happened last week and what happened this week, last week in Texas, this week in Maine, was that ended with the fatal shooting of two individuals, neither of whom was the target of those immigration enforcement operations. So again, we are now learning that there is a change in tactics here moving forward until further notice. Now, a spokesperson for Immigration and Customs Enforcement said the following, quote, "We are always evaluating our procedures to keep our officers safe and criminals off our streets. We will not disclose or discuss law enforcement tactics." Now, I will note that we are learning about more people who are planning to investigate what happened in Maine just yesterday with the death of the 26-year-old Colombian man. The Department of Homeland Security Inspector General plans to investigate, the FBI as well, and now also the Maine Attorney General. Still so many questions here over what unfolded in the moments of that shooting. Surveillance footage up until now has shown some of what led up to it, but still a lot of questions, Jana, that will not be answered by body-worn cameras. The Department of Homeland Security telling me that the agents involved in the Maine shooting, as those involved in Texas, did not have those on their person.
Can I just ask you a question on that before I let you go? Is my memory correct that after Alex Preddy was killed, that then Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said that the practice would be to have agents wearing body cameras?
That's exactly right. She had pledged at the time that they would distribute them nationally. That process has been ongoing, but it has been slow. And so there are multiple regions across the country who do not have, the agents do not have those body-worn cameras. In addition to that, Dana, I will add that the fiscal year 2026 money that was sent by Congress to ICE included $20 million for body-worn cameras. So now they have the resources. The department says the shutdown slowed them down, but officials also tell me this has just been a slow process in getting them out.
Yeah, the shutdown happened, but ICE and law enforcement who deal with Border Patrol and internal surveillance, they have a ton of money, and they had a ton of money, which we'll talk about. Thank you for that excellent reporting, Priscilla. I really appreciate it. Back here at the table, just talking about Maine first, 26 years old from Colombia, Joan Sebastian Guerrero. He was authorized to work in the U.S., had a Social Security number, according to Maine Immigrants' Rights Coalition groups. And he is a father, a partner. Susan Collins, Republican senator from Maine, who is, as we have been talking about almost daily here, up for re-election in a very, very tough environment for her as an incumbent Republican in a blue state, said this on a social media post at 11:40 a.m. While the investigation of the Biddeford shooting is not yet complete, it raises sufficient critical questions that I spoke with DHS Secretary Mullen last night and urged him to cease all non-urgent vehicle stops. And according to this reporting from Priscilla, that looks like that is going to happen for now.
Yes, and as it affects the senator's race for re-election, I was struck at how quickly every Democrat who's now running to replace Graham Plattner embraced the protests and repeated calls to abolish ICE. And Maine is a state that voted against Donald Trump in 2024. He's less popular than he was now. The entire Democratic plan there, which was complicated for several months by Plattner, is just to make it a referendum on continuing the Trump administration. I think it's notable also Collins has an ad up today noting that she voted against the One Big Beautiful Bill, which included plussed up ICE funding. I don't think that terribly complicates what Democrats are going to try to do there, but this freezes and refocuses that discussion. This is more than politics going on here. I do wonder, outside of Maine and Democratic primaries, one answer for establishment, or I should say incumbent Democrats, establishment at this point is pejorative, about what they've been doing is, well, we've been trying to fight the administration. Well, at least we got body cameras. We've gotten some compromises in these negotiations. If you're a left-wing candidate, I reiterate probably today that I want to abolish ICE, and any sort of compromise negotiation with Republicans doesn't work.
Well, true, and I want you to speak to this. This is a policy that DHS said that they would change. It was not a mandate codified into any law or string attached to any funding. Why is that? Because there were real ongoing bipartisan negotiations after Alex Preddy. And the Democrats, from Democrats I talked to, said that they got a lot of what they wanted. They did not get masks. The Republicans and the White House wouldn't compromise on that. So they were left with nothing. And here we are. So it is not the law of the land that these body cams are on there. And just quickly, as I bring you in to talk about those numbers, that One Big Beautiful Bill, $75 billion was passed to go to ICE. $38 billion in June of 2026 for the regular funding package. So the idea that they're saying, well, it was delayed because of the shutdown. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think two things are happening here. The administration could have been more proactive about getting those body cameras distributed. But the other side of this is a very important point that you made, which is that Democrats and Republicans were at the negotiating table, were trying to find a compromise. I think everyone in the Senate was really motivated and moved after the shooting of Alex Preddy to take charge. And yet, I think Democrats viewed that moment as one in which they had so much political capital that they wanted every single thing that they had asked for. And when they didn't get it, which is traditionally not how a negotiation works, they walked away from the negotiating table in what could have been a pretty broad bipartisan effort to rein in the way that ICE was conducting these raids.
That's a charitable way to put it. The more cynical way to put it is that it gives them everything to run on politically in these midterms. And, you know, in the short term, what happened is this 26-year-old who is legally in the United States from Colombia is dead without a mandate for a body camera, or who knows what else could have been mandated, and perhaps a better path to justice, if nothing else.
Well, and the fact that Homeland Security is now reversing its policy, changing its policy, scaling back vehicle stops, according to Priscilla's reporting, that is a sign that they realize there's a problem, that this is heating up again. Just like it heated up in January, they were under incredible pressure from the public, and they promised they would do some things. They would, they would calm things down. Markwayne Mullin was brought in, and his mandate was not to reduce the number of deportations. His mandate was still mass deportation, but to do it with sort of a cooler, calmer temperature, with less show. And this was getting hot, and so you see this policy announcement.